Hey everyone, so I thought I'd share a little bit about one of my favorite stories I've been reading in Genesis, which is really good, the beginning. And it's basically about Joseph's brothers. So obviously they are 12 brothers and there's one sister. Joseph being favored and anointed because he's having these dreams. And I find it funny that he has the dreams and he can't quite interpret his dreams, but he can interpret other people's dreams. But in any case, so obviously his brothers are quite envious. They don't understand these dreams, and so they have murderous hearts. They're envious towards him, and they throw him in a pit. Long story short, is it going to be long story short? I wonder. Okay, so they throw him in the pit, and they sell him to the Ishmaelites traders for 20 shekels. So in the Old Testament, they're referring to silver shekels, but if I take the Bank of Israel's 20 shekels and I convert it to South African rands today, more or less you're looking at about 110 rand that they sold their brother for. Now, I could be off with the maths, but I'm sure it was worth more in those days, but if I work it out now, it's 110 rand. So they never saw their brother's worth, right? But Jesus knew all along. God knew all along what the plan that he had for Joseph. So Joseph is now sold into part of his household, basically, and he starts working really hard. So that's the first word that came to my mind while reading this in Genesis was the word work. So nobody really likes work because work is not sometimes pleasant. Sometimes you have to work on you. Sometimes we think things won't work out. There's a lot of things that comes to mind when you think of the word work. And I think of the slave that Joseph was sold as. So slaves in those days didn't have wonder mops or dishwashers. They were scrubbing with their hands and feet. The conditions in Egypt is similar to Israel, very hot, timid, the air is sticky, so they didn't have proper clothes. I'm sure they were underfed. I'm not even too sure if these guys, those in charge basically, were a bit aggressive and violent if they didn't perform, maybe hitting them with whips or pushing them down. Did they even have a chance to really rest unless you were in maybe a bit of a better Egyptian household? Maybe the slaves weren't treated that bad. I don't know, but this is how Joseph gets treated, and obviously he starts getting recognized for his hard work. And clearly Potiphar's wife is obviously finding him very attractive. Because now he's well built, he's working hard, and he's actually quite intelligent. So God's helped him gain favor. But this is not the favor that he wants. And eventually she accuses him of trying to rape her, and Joseph is now sold into prison. You know the story. But not sold, taken into prison. And he also gains favor there. Now he starts becoming like the warden's basically assistant. PA. Personal assistant. Like you didn't know that. Okay, but anyways, and so while he's in prison, he's still being sort of treated like a worker. And then the next word that came to mind was will. I'm sure Joseph still had the will of the Father in his heart. And this is why he was exciting, because even though bad things was happening, I would have probably also wanted to have blamed God for everything. I would have wanted to feel like rejected, not appreciate. I wouldn't even understand how could God give me this dreams and this family of mine, and I just don't see anything happening. But I'm sure he still had the will of the Father in his heart, and the Father still had the will for Joseph, right? And then the next word that came to mind, or phrase, was there's a price to pay. So I'm sure Joseph's brothers, if they ever had a good night's sleep because of what they've done, I wonder. I know I wouldn't have, because if Joseph was either quiet in the pit, that would have bothered me. If he wasn't quiet and he was crying and screaming and begging for them not to do what they were doing, that would have also bothered me, not being able to do anything. And the fact that now my father, when we say Jacob now, is obviously grieved, he's mourning, he's not the same since. I'm sure that thing also affected the family. So obviously they had a price to pay for their actions, and Joseph was also paying the price as a result of their actions, and maybe also as a result of him telling people his dreams. But I do believe the fact that he shared his dreams was God's way of them when it all came to work out together, them remembering the dream he had from God. Okay, so the last thing that came to mind was now Joseph's being obviously restored. He's now interpreted dreams, and finally he's now in Pharaoh's court, and he's washed and he's clean, and he is being presented to Pharaoh. And I thought of the word salvation. With your salvation comes victory. And then I thought to myself, like, wow, what a story. The dreamer kid was not the dreamer. He was actually having the word from God planted in his heart. And this was manifesting into something that was going to help all of the Israelites during that famine. And so how does a slave get to a point where he's now helping the whole world not basically die of hunger? So I must just be honest, I thought this was like such an awesome story. I still love it so much. And then if I take those words back, basically, in order to receive your salvation and victory, there was a price to pay, and that was Jesus paying the price for us. Without the shedding of blood, there's no forgiveness of sin. And because of his willingness, he did so willingly, gave up his breath willingly. The works of Satan is now done. So that's what I want to encourage you with. So sometimes you may be feeling like nobody knows your worth. God knows your worth. That's why he died on the cross for you. That's why he went all the way, not halfway, not for a price, 110 rand. He gave all his blood. He knew that the price to pay for you was much more than what Satan having a hold over.